Hi, I'm Rob, and in this Gems of War video, I'm going to go over all the weapons and troops that are in the Soulforge all the time. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because literally every single week when I do the Soulforge video, I always go over the weapons which are here and the ones that are new. And basically I say, and I'm not going to go over all these weapons that are here all the time because I mentioned in previous Soulforge videos. They were very early ones, but I've done so many more videos since then on the Soulforge that basically I can't remember where those ones are myself. Well, I've mentioned these before. So this is going to be the Soulforge Extra. And basically, if you want to see what these things do, these ones that are here all the time, then just look up Soulforge Extra on my channel and you will find them. Because the rest of the time, it'll be only the new weapons and new troops that are in Soulforge every week. So Soulforge Extra, this is going to be just the weapons and troops that are here all the time. Right then, we'll start with the weapons. Eye of Xathanos. Deals magic-based damage to an enemy and steals 5 points from a random skill. If the enemy is Fey, deal triple damage. So this is actually an okay weapon against Fey. I'm not sure it's so useful against anybody else, but against Fey, that is going to be a lot of damage. But the main reason you're going to craft this is because you're going to want to craft Eye of Xathanos, Heart of Xathanos and Soul of Xathanos in the end result to actually cast the dude himself. He's not that fantastic a troop. I'll go over him properly in a minute. But yeah, the main reason for casting or crafting these weapons, the Eye of Xathanos and so on, are to craft Xathanos himself because they are part of his recipe. Next up we have Shattered Blade, and similar to Xathanos, Shattered Blade, Broken Guard and Dawnstone are part of the recipe for Dawnbringer. So the main reason you're going to be crafting Shattered Blade, Broken Guard and Dawnstone is to eventually craft Dawnbringer, which is a really good weapon. So we'll come to that in a second, but let's take a look at this weapon individually. Deals magic-based scatter damage boosted by Divine and Knight allies. So yeah, not much cop. You're not going to be using that very much, if at all, ever. You're just going to be crafting that to be able to craft Dawnbringer eventually. Broken Guard gives magic-based armor and 5 attack to all allies, and if there are 13 or more yellow gems, give 4 life and magic to all allies. Now those writings in black cannot be changed regardless of your magic level, so they are set in stone amounts. And that's what kind of spoils this weapon a little bit. It could have been good if it's scaled with your magic, but it does not. So again, just a weapon you're crafting to eventually craft a Dawnbringer. Dawnstone. Give an ally, looks like magic +2 life and half their mana, cleanse, barrier and enchant them. Actually, not a bad weapon at all. This is one of the ones out of these three you may actually use now and again on its own as a actual weapon. Pretty decent that actually, not too bad at all. Like half their mana is half their mana regardless of what they've got left. Say for example, you need 20 mana, you're on 10. That would actually take you to fully charged. If you're on like 2 mana, you'll go to 12 because it's literally half your mana. So pretty decent, not too bad at all that as a weapon. Heart of Xathanos. Deal a low amount of damage to all enemies, Deathmark Divines and Disease Knight enemies. So yeah, pretty rubbish against Knights. Even with that disease, it just slows down the amount of mana they collect. And Deathmarking Divines can be effective, I suppose, but again, it's a low damage amount, not that great. Soul of Xathanos. Magic +1 damage to an enemy, boosted by souls collected, and steal their mana. It's the last part of that spell which is the most interesting for me, steal their mana, because it only costs 15 mana to get this collected. So if you cast that on somebody that actually has 15 or more mana, you're going to become fully charged and can do it again to maybe somebody else. So it's good in theory, but that low amount of damage makes it not that great. But yeah, it still has a little bit of potential, that one for me. Next up is Dawnbringer. I remember looking at this thing thinking I am never going to be able to own this, like a million souls, that's going to take me literally forever in this game. But it comes around sooner than what you think, and not only have you got Dawnbringer, you've got that million souls, but you've got a whole bunch of souls left over thinking, what the heck do I do with 8 million spare souls all of a sudden? So you will get Dawnbringer eventually. It is a very, very good weapon still. Once you collect these weapons here to craft it, you'll have a Dawnbringer. And it's pretty neat actually. I still actually quite like it. deals magic +2 damage to all enemies, boosted by yellow allies and enemies. Give all allies barrier, and if there are 13 or more red gems, gain 2 magic. So a powerful weapon still, not quite the game changer it was when it first came out and everybody was hankering after it and it was absolutely awesome, but still pretty decent and certainly worth crafting. Right, next up we have Duskbringer, the opposite. This one does, again, damage to all enemies, but this time boosted by purple allies and enemies. Deathmark all enemies, and if there are 13 or more brown gems, gain 2 magic. So Deathmark all enemies is pretty decent, the damage is okay, so still a decent weapon as well. Not in the quite same league as Dawnbringer for me, but still a really cool weapon. And likewise, you still need 1,000,000 souls to craft this thing. A few weapons here. We need the Anchor of Nefertari. Also, we're going to need the Blade of Nefertari. And we're also going to need the Scarab of Nefertari. Now, these weapons aren't always here, so we're not going to look at those right now because they're the ones you're going to look out for when they appear in the Soulforge, because this is really pretty important. All the ones that are Nefertari based, you need to keep an eye out for because you just got to get them when they're there. Otherwise, you're going to take absolutely ages to craft Duskbringer. So keep a lookout for any of the weapons that end up with Nefertari because you're going to need them for Duskbringer. Next up, Trick and Treat. I remember when this first came out, and I remember my guild saying, sounds rubbish. The guild I was in at the time, everyone said, nah, it's rubbish. I think I was the only one that said, you kidding me? This sounds really flipping good. Inflict all negative status effects on an enemy and grant myself all positive status effects. How is that bad? I think that's amazing, and it still is amazing, and it turns out it's still an absolutely awesome weapon. This thing is even a pain on its own. Like when you get this as a last opponent, it's still awkward to kill sometimes, especially in the right class, because it's been stealthy and it can summon a spider and stuff when you get hit. Things like that. Really, really fantastic weapon. Totally worth crafting. Absolutely love it still. Absolutely essential for me. 10,000 souls. You need 5 of the devil. Is an okay troop. Nothing fantastic though, but yeah, you need 5 of the devil to craft that. And some gems, but absolutely superb. Love Trick and Treat. Now the Curse Breaker weapons. These are pretty interesting to me because you'll notice that each one of these does a similar but slightly different variant of the same thing. This one deals damage to the first and last enemies. This one does damage to the last 2. This one does damage to the first 2. This one does damage to 2 random enemies. And this one does scatter damage. So all kind of different, and this one does splash damage. But they all vary on colour. They all bless and curse a certain colour. This one blesses and curses brown. This one blesses and curses purple, and so on and so on. But let's take a look at these individually. Starting with the Curse Breaker Sword. Deals magic-based damage to the first and last enemies, so it can be handy against those troops hiding in last place and maybe stealthy, hard to hit. Boosted by +4 per tempering level amount, and bless all blue allies and curse all blue enemies. So okay, but yeah, not fantastic. I'm not actually a huge fan of these. They're kind of very situational. This one deals magic-based damage again to the last 2 enemies this time with a +4 per tempering level boost. Bless all green allies and curse all green enemies. So again, all these are very, very situational based on whoever you're fighting. This one does, again, damage to the first 2 enemies this time, +4 per tempering level boost. Bless all red, curse all red enemies. Cursebreaker Javelin. This is the best one for me because it deals true damage. So for me, that is just a better weapon all around. Deals magic-based true damage to 2 random enemies with a +4 per tempering level boost. Bless all yellow allies and curse all yellow enemies. So this is the best one for me because of the true damage. Cursebreaker Wand does a decent amount of scatter damage with a +4 per tempering level boost. Bless all purple allies and curse all purple enemies. And the Hammer does magic-based splash damage to a single enemy, +4 per tempering level boost again, and bless all brown allies and curse all brown enemies. Next up, we have the rings, the Ring of Crystal Ice. Now, these are the ones where you start needing these dragons to be able to craft these. So, and a huge amount of Dragonite as well. So, Are they worth actually getting? Well, they're actually not too bad for me. Create 1 blue giant gem for every blue enemy. So against an all blue team, you're going to create 4 of those blue giant gems. Then deal magic based damage to all blue enemies and freeze them. The only thing about that is there's no extra turn thing with it, so you could actually create those blue giant gems and that could work against you. But hey, it's the roll of the dice when you cast some of these weapons. You have to roll the dice and take your chance. Ring of Crystal Fire. Create 1 red giant gem for every red enemy, then deal magic based damage to all red enemies and burn them. So a very similar thing to this one, but the kind of opposite way round. But the main reason you're crafting these 2 rings here is not so much to use the rings, it is to craft a particularly awesome troop. We'll go to the troops and we find the Diamantina. What you need here is this weapon here. You need the Diamond Ring of Fire and Ice. If you pop back to the weapons, the Diamond Ring of Fire and Ice, you need both of these weapons to craft it. There's the first one. And the second one is over there. So you need both of them anyway, similarly to the other troops where we need like the 3 different weapons to craft. Zathanos and Dawnbringer and Duskbringer, etc. So the main reason is not to use these so much, they're a little bit risky, but it's to basically craft the Diamond Ring of Fire and Ice, which when you've done that, you can actually craft Diamantina. So Diamantina is the first troop. We'll look at the troops now. Absolutely superb, really, really good damage. Huge amount of damage to all enemies, boosted by skulls. Convert 5 skulls to doom skulls. There's a 10% chance for an extra turn boosted by skulls. Really, really cool. Loads of damage. Summon a Bone Storm at the start of battle. Reduce damage from skulls by 55% is massive. And give 2 magic to all allies when matching skulls. So really good. Diamantina. It's everyone's wish list at the moment. If we could only stop getting duplicate dragons. Next up we have Enraged Kurandara. Deals damage to all enemies, boosted by Doom Skulls, then convert yellow gems to Doom Skulls and conjure a Doomstorm. So a fairly decent spell that. The fact that it converts yellow gems to Doom Skulls mean you can see if you're going to get a yellow match before you decide to cast this and do that damage to all at the same time. Some really good traits as well. Gain bonus red from red gem matches. Invulnerable, one of only a handful of troops in the game that's invulnerable. Immune to all status effects, Devour, Mana Drain, Transform, Lycanthropy and lethal damage. And Curse of Damnation. 40% chance to curse all enemies when my turn begins is pretty decent. The kind of weakness against it though is it being a boss. It means it is subject to attack by Godslayer and therefore could suffer up to 5 times normal damage and just take him out in one go. And next up we have Zul'Goth. The Holy Grail. People love Zul'Goth. They wanted Zul'Goth and he is indeed extremely like satisfying to craft. I remember when I first crafted Zul'Goth, I was like, yay, got Zul'Goth at last. It was like one of those moments in the game that made you think this is why I'm playing this game. And he is indeed absolutely superb. Kills an enemy just outright, bang, you are dead. Doesn't apply to invulnerable troops though, so remember, he can't actually kill an invulnerable troop himself. It just will not work because they are protected from lethal damage. But anybody else he's absolutely great at. It just kills an enemy, burns and freezes all remaining enemies and creates 12 skulls. Some good traits as well. Jinx, halve enemy gem masteries, is impervious, so immune to status effects, Devour, Lycanthropy and Mana Burn. And Manifestation, gain 5 to all skill points when matching skulls. So probably didn't need to tell you how good Zul'Goth was, but yeah, he's good. Get Zul'Goth. Gem Dragon Eggs we don't count. Darksmith Drenzo's here. Gives magic based armor to all allies, then deals the same amount of damage to an enemy boosted by cursed gems. Then destroys all cursed gems. So is that a decent spell and is he worth crafting? Well, I crafted this guy absolutely ages ago and I don't think I've actually used it properly yet, but that doesn't actually mean he's not any good. It just means that I haven't actually got around to doing that yet, because if you think about this, armor to all allies is fairly good anyway, and damage to an enemy is good anyway as well, boosted by cursed gems. He converts 2 brown gems to cursed gems when his turn begins, And now there are lots of ways of creating a lot of cursed gems pretty quickly in the game. So this is going to boost up the damage really quickly. So providing the team you're fighting against doesn't have any way of destroying those cursed gems, then, you know, maybe this could work and it could do significant damage at the same time. Has Fortitude, which is not too bad, immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, lycanthropy and devour. And Inscribed is just okay, but overall he's more collectible than anything. I don't think he's going to be a game changer in many teams. And yeah, he's just all right for me. You hardly ever see him in teams. Next up we have Scroll Reborn. Do like these troops, they are very good indeed. Excuse me. Creates 5 yellow gems, then convert all yellow gems to Doomskulls. Summons 1 to 3 wargs. Now the fact that it converts or creates 5 yellow gems first and then converts all yellow gems to Doomskulls, there's a little bit of jeopardy in this, like unless you can see you're going to get a yellow match to Doomskulls already, that already aligning with some other skulls. It can be obviously extremely powerful then. But even if you're not getting a match, you can roll the dice and see if those yellow gems align with something, and it can work that way. But yeah, pretty decent. Also Impervious, immune to all status effects, Devour, Lycanthropy and Mana Burn. And Solar Inspiration, give 4 attack to all beast allies when my turn begins. Is alright, but the traits aren't really the best, to be honest. It's still fairly decent though, but again, same thing as before, a boss is subject for attack by a Godslayer and therefore can be subject to 5 times damage from those troops. Hattai Ascendant. I absolutely love this one. In the correct team, you can create a ridiculous amount of skulls. Creates 6 green gems, then convert all green gems to lycanthropy gems and summon 1 to 3 winter wolves. There's another troop which basically converts lycanthropy gems to skulls, I believe it is, and it goes absolutely nuts in that combination. Really, really good fun. Again, the traits aren't anything fantastic. Immune to all status effects, Devour, Lycanthropy and Mana Burn, and give 2 magic to all beast allies when my turn begins. Yep, so traits, but yeah, the spell with the right team is actually really, really good. Leonis Tower, low mana cost for this, and actually very, very good indeed. Again, one of the handful of troops to have invulnerable, immune to all status effects, Devour, mana drain, transform, lycanthropy and lethal damage. Stun a random enemy when matching yellow gems is good, and reduce damage from skulls by 50%. So a really hot set of traits there, really good, very strong in first place. That damage from skulls, really useful. And it deals damage to the first 2 enemies, stuns them and gains barrier at the same time. Can be a real pain in first place that. Really good indeed, certainly worth crafting. Did I do Zathanos? I don't think I did. Steal life and half the magic from an enemy, and if the enemy dies, summon 1 to 3 random undead. So you steal life, that means you take it away from them and give it to yourself. That is effectively true damage. But half the magic being stolen is actually good, because that means if you get to multicast this, then you're going to be stealing even more life the next turn. But he's just not that great overall. It sounds good, but in practice it isn't actually that great at all. So unfortunately he's nowhere near in the same league as Zorgoth, even though he's one of the craftable troops that was, you know, alongside Zorgoth. It was like in the original days it was Zathanos and Zorgoth that people were trying to craft. But yeah, nowhere near in the same league as Zorgoth, but more collectible than anything, and you may chuck him into the odd team now and again. Can be good, I suppose, here and there, but certainly not essential. But there it is. There's the Soulforge extra of all the troops that are here all the time. So when I say in future Soulforge videos about just only looking at the troops here all the time, because all the other ones have been reviewed in previous Soulforge videos, I actually mean it now, and it will be findable by looking at the Soulforge extra. But there's a video. If you enjoyed it, found it useful or helpful, it'd be really cool if you bash that like and subscribe button. It really does help. But most of all, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.